Now, before I begin, I just want to point out that I'm currently incredibly drunk while filming this because I just found out that I might have pancreatitis or much worse. The doctors are trying to confirm the diagnosis. Shit, I don't think I'm supposed to be saying this on video. The following video is not what I'll usually do, so if you're here for a good laugh or something to pass time with, you can check out my TikTok and other contents I occasionally post on YouTube and Twitter. Please excuse my slurring while I struggle to talk, because I am actually really drunk right now. I don't know how much I drank. So this has been in the works for several years along with a hybrid cinematic short that I'm working on with friends from several production teams. So a lot has changed for me over the last few years, especially this last two, and I thought it's about time, I started documenting my life somehow while I still can, right? So why not do it in the ways I know? I mean, one of my life goals was to get into film productions and documentaries, but let's just say that I don't have the kind of support I'll need for that route. So I'm gonna work with what I have. This might take a while to listen to, since I'm mostly just gonna sit here and talk, because I'm a lazy bastard and I'm really wasted. So you can leave this in the background if you just need something to fill the silence in wherever you are, or something to sleep to. That's fine, I do that with documentaries too. So in here, this would answer what most would have asked me before, but I never really gave a proper response to for, several reasons. Friends, family, work, and growing up. These are just some of the things that I'm going to be sharing today. So, about the birthday. I want to get something out of the way first, and that was about the birthday surprise. This was perhaps the best I ever had in a very long time. Like, talking about over 20 years to be exact, and it was definitely not what I expected. I mean, I don't even know what to expect. Sure, I'll usually tell most people I'm terrified of parties, but the other half of the truth is that I just feel guilty from having people having to go through so much trouble, all kinds of lengths, just to organize something for me. And honestly, I already feel special with all of you here constantly showing your support in whatever I do, right? And I cannot possibly ask for more. I'm grateful. I forever am. And personally, I live by this rule I set for myself in life that you don't need a day set in a calendar just to show your appreciation and love for someone. Like how I don't really bother with anniversary days anymore and celebrate it for the entire month instead. Like why not show your appreciation every day kind of thing, And in this part, I'm gonna start calling people out for the surprise, and that really caught me off guard. I'm gonna name names now, okay? Kazuki, Sorami, Aurora, Akios, Goofy, Johari, Kaiju, Emblade, Misho, Fossy Gang, Nardo, hi dad, Night Dragon, Rock, Seal, Sham, Spoopy, Spitfire, Stitcheroo, Techcastport, Trigo, you little bitch, T-Sop, Whitey, Ziggy, Captain Slow, Zero, thank you for the gift, Dev, thank you for the gift, Warren, thank you for the idea and the gift, Jenny, Bear, thank you for the gift, I really love it, Wolfie, thank you for the art, okay? You know what I'm talking about. Kire, and also shout out to my sponsors, The Novel Encounter and Interstellar Goods, as well as many of you out there who came to the party at Vibe Night's Halloween special. Like, thank you all for everything you did for me in your own ways over the last just couple of years, like big, small, everything in between. It's the thought that really counts, and I really appreciate each and every one of you. I cannot imagine the amount of effort put into all of this, and certainly wasn't expecting to see a lot of people in the video as well, and I don't know like what I could do to repay with, to be honest. From the bottom of my heart, thank you everyone. And seriously, stop spreading about the Rex bit, like just, let me have that one. Like, anyway, on a related note, this will be my first time sharing a fair bit more about myself here that a lot of people have been asking about, and some of these things were never known by a majority of people I had outside of the fandom as well. So anyway, so I don't usually tell the whole story to the masses just to save time and not dampen the moment, but I guess there's the first time for everything, right? So as far as I could remember, this was about when I was about 8 years old, and that was the only birthday party I can actually remember that I really had. It was at this McDonald's near my grandmother's apartment, and it was all my friends and families there. I remember being so nervous, I just hit under one of the tables, but it was fun. Times were simple, Then life happened, cue the whole domestic violence and bad shit at home. Every now and then there's perhaps a cake by myself, sometimes a small surprise here and there from nice people that came and went, but definitely nothing high-key. That led up to about 2007 when I stopped looking forward to any of it after my mother's unfortunate demise, which was about 7 days before my birthday, along with some other issues in life. Most of the time went straight to odd jobs since I couldn't afford school at all. Where I come from, the cremation ceremony usually takes place on the 7th day of the funeral. So imagine the irony of having to carry your mother's ashes, and I think that was also around the time when I developed this fascination for some really fucked up level of dark humor, because I was thinking to myself, so what if I put the candle on the urn and celebrate anyway? Does that count as celebrating with my mom? I'm a fucking terrible son. So anyway, things were pretty quiet until 2012, back when I was serving in the military. Let's call this friend K. Now, he's the DJ at this bar I used to drop by frequently when I was starting out trying to become a DJ and finding a place to work in, and we had a mutual friend, let's call him Jay. Now, back then, it was my first year knowing most of them, and I didn't know that night it was K's birthday. Jay thought it was a good idea to just cram me in together with the birthday surprise prepared for K, even though I did tell him quietly by the side that I didn't want to. I felt awkward, you know? So it happened anyway, and I remember K's girlfriend was putting up with it really awkwardly while I was shoved into the camera view, holding the cake together with K's name on the cake. Just his name, you know? At that time, I didn't think about it much until shortly after just one of the nights I woke up and it just hit me, you know? It felt really awkward to just crash in a party that was entirely planned for someone else. So for many years after, I just stopped completely, like, you know, looking forward to any birthday celebrations until I met my significant other, who kept trying her best, going all out just to remind me that I am loved. I just felt bad each and every time it happened, and I would always try to compensate in return. I mean, growing up being told that you're burdened by people, be it relatives or friends, almost every single day, it does really mess with you, you know? And then in 2018, I had another massive alcohol poisoning at work in a nightclub while they were trying to celebrate my birthday. So on this bit, I'm gonna deviate just a little bit into the alcohol part. I've been a recovering alcoholic, and the biggest irony is working in the nightlife full-time back then. That shit never works, no matter how disciplined you can be. My liver nearly went bust completely, and the doctor, who later became my friend, told me it was a quote, fucking miracle that I could survive that level of alcohol intake. Now, I didn't manage to leave completely intact. The damage is actually done, and I was told I may never recover fully. So in 2020, I had a bunch of close friends holding a small surprise birthday party at one of their houses. It was a night of great, simple fun, but I still felt bad throughout the entire time because I knew how busy everyone was, and yet they just made the time out. You know, I felt really special at that point, but I still cannot get rid of the whole feeling bad kind of notion, you know. And ever since then, I avoided birthdays even more than before, and that thought faded when I found my way into Vibe Night through Kazuki. Meeting all walks of life in a different reality, being around my significant other, helped me understand that my biggest weakness was holding on to the past too much that I can't move forward. Thinking it would have kept me safe, but that only robbed me of opportunities to new experiences I always wanted to have, actually. So I decided I'm just gonna randomly throw a party one of the weekends when I have more time for absolutely no reason at all, be it celebrating my birthday fashionably late, celebrate life, or even you know? I look forward to celebrations more than before now, and truly, it's all thanks to many of you out there in the world, and I will always continue to pay this forward. So this question came to me like quite a few times, and I actually had a hard time answering this until maybe sometime recently when I had enough to just sit down and actually give it a good thought. I was like, oh, okay, I guess some things just cannot be changed, right? So I think the whole pandemic changed a lot of people, be it for better or worse, and it's a bit tough to see that some of the people you consider as close to you would turn out to be someone you never understood well enough, you know? So let's go back to a couple of years ago, about 2020. So at that year, for the sake of qualifying for work visa overseas, specifically Canada or Taiwan, I decided to venture out and get my academic qualifications somewhere, you know, which would have meant it would take up all of my time. aside from my day job and everything. So I vanished from all the social circles for a while at first, and gradually over time I discovered more things about these people while observing from a distance, and it's really disturbing to realize that most weren't really friends in the end, but just people who kept each other around for whatever reasons they had, like work or favors. Like, this discovery was, even though not new to me at the time, but I never really had the time to sit down and think about it hard enough about the times we shared to see if it's really worth keeping. And after losing everything in my career that shaped pretty much my entire life, all I had was time during lockdown. So the more I thought about it, the harder it was for me to accept the fact that most people I thought of as close friends actually had red flags all over them. We're talking about the ones who played nice but were always up to something behind people's backs, the ones who guilt-trip others into staying for them even, the ones who were low-key abusive to people and themselves, and the ones who exclaimed, "I'm here for you all the time," but were never there in your time of need. And the list of questionable people / actions start to just, expand rapidly, and just in just 1 week. I was so disgusted at myself for not accepting this sooner. Yes, disgusted at myself. I genuinely thought tolerating all the red flags I chose to ignore was worth it, but all that did for me in the end was to allow people to walk all over me completely. I mean, shit, what kind of a close friend send messages like this out of the blue for the first time in a couple of years, despite being fully aware that you're busy with your own life? Come on, man. Like, that was around the time when I started to go much heavier into VR and eventually found myself meeting all kinds of people all over the world. Over time, these people helped me discover the very things I never fully understood about myself, or find closure in some of them even. Now, I'm not proud of this part, but I was known as the resident hothead that had this temper a lot of people had a hard time dealing with, and that lasted up to the lockdown period when I realized that I was actually never an angry person or an anxiety-ridden mess. Other than a handful of friends I kept in touch with after many years of sharing our good and bad times together, I realized that most of the people were in some way contributing to the problems I was facing, be it through the way how they dealt with other people, how they would actively shit on each other's backs while pretending to be friends, some even going out of their way to sabotage my path as a DJ. Now, this is a bit of a strong claim, but I do have evidence to back all of it. And anyway, so they could keep me around for their own personal gains, right? Thinking I wouldn't know at all. All of that and more, in a bad way, unfortunately. But being more involved in the community over here, meeting more people and learning about their stories, how they got here, and all of this helped me learn this harsh fact I chose to ignore for many years, that the social circles I chose to be in back then will very likely not even notice if I'm suddenly gone one day. People remember me only if, like, say they needed something, right? Be it a service, be it work or anything. And the lines between friendship and business was often blurred so badly that nobody can actually tell the difference anymore. And let's just say that this was tested and proven sometime recently. While it was sad to know, I'm actually glad it happened. At least I can move on with what I always wanted to do for myself. All my life I lived with the fear of failure, but it's the fear of failing and having people leave because of that scared me more than just the failure itself, if that makes any sense. By the end of 2021, for the first time, I decided that I wanted to live for myself as well as for those who deserve the support more than I do. No more trying to please people who don't keep things two-way or pay it forward. Fuck it, if I failed now, I can always try again. Now, if I failed in something and someone left me, at this point I can tell you I'm finally able to say I'm okay with that. I wasn't kidding whenever I tell a friend in the fandom that I'm here because of them. I meant it. Yeah, sure, the fandom does have its own set of issues, be it social or others, but it's still a hell of a lot better to see people work together towards a common goal, to help each other learn and grow, and to be the best versions of themselves. Where I come from, this was reserved mostly for those who already had some form of commercial value and sense, or even use to others, if that makes any sense. And for half my life, I was told that friendships are all about the values you can give each other. While I do agree with that to some extent, this often leads to people eyeing on money, power, and status. But now, after learning more perspectives from all of you and then some, I see friendships as bonds that could shape or break a person, and it's up for both sides to build that bond together, you know? So about this bit, in the community and circles I'm in today, beautiful people with beautiful hearts. But before this, I really got nothing much to say about myself, really. I never really had a family since I was technically orphaned around the time my mom left, while my dad remarried a bunch of times to people who sincerely wanted me dead. No relatives to rely on. They either have their own lives to deal with or just old-fashioned snakes who's out for money and blood. So I often ran away from home, couch surfing mostly, while living between paychecks on my own. I never really had anyone I could look up to. Always shunned the idea of appearing at family gatherings whenever the invite comes in and they just want me to be there, right? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a nice gesture, I appreciate that, but it just feels awkward about being the odd one out. And when people from your friend's family start asking you about home, you got nothing to share, and I just feel weird about that. So when I first come across the furry fandom, that was around the time I dropped out of high school due to financial difficulties and I needed money to survive really badly. I know most people would say, oh my god, be careful of groomers and pedophiles, and let's just put it this way, I was very lucky to have met a few grey muzzles who watched out for me and taught me a number of important life lessons before, well, they decide to move on, right? That was perhaps the closest thing to having a dad for me, bluntly. It was a nice moment, to be honest, even though it wasn't for long. So for many years, I avoided the topic about how I really grew up with no family other than my late grandmother from the maternal side, who happened to be the only person I kept in touch with all the years up till her passing. And she was the only person who believed in my dreams and what I wanted to do for myself. Everyone else just scoffed at the ideas with, you know, all kinds of mean shit. It wasn't surprising to say the least, given the fact that it's considered a norm in an Asian family that you need to make a hell lot of money to have your existence acknowledged at least, and nothing else truly mattered to these people. I hated every moment of it. The reason why I made a promise to myself that someday I will change my legal name to reflect who I wanted to become, sharing a surname with someone who changed my life the most. So that led up to meeting my significant other in a really wild way back in 2013, like literally on the internet kind of wild. Now I won't say it here, but you can ask me anytime about this one because it's a little bit lengthy to add. But anyway, she was perhaps the only family I have ever since. Sure, we may have more bad times than good ones in recent years after some rather shocking discoveries about ourselves and each other, but it's still something at least. You know, I don't know where we will end up next, but for what it's worth, now it's mostly just enjoying the ride together until we need to make our next move in life. But she was there through it all, watching all the bad shit unfold onto me. I never asked for it. Like the years of depression and crippling anxiety I had from trying to become a DJ, and she's mostly helpless about it, but she did try in her own ways, which I really still appreciate very much nonetheless, even though in some way she was also part of the reason why I had a lot to struggle with. And I'm not exactly experienced in loving someone, given the fact that I never really had much to work with in the first place. But I like to think that it's through her that I learned to love myself and the people around me in my own ways. So I managed to reconnect with my estranged father after many years of staying away from him, and made a move to buy over his apartment while he struggled with his own issues that he created over the years. And it feels a bit weird saying this, but my parent lives with me and I'm head of the household. I mean, the stereotype is usually, oh my god, furries live with their parents, ew, cringe. Like, sure, I mean, I could have just moved anywhere in the world, right, since I have nothing much left in this place anyway. But I certainly wasn't going to just randomly go, hey, I'm moving to Canada, without figuring out how I will ever get a job there, how I will survive, get an apartment to stay in, etc. So in the meantime, I stay with this old man. Like, yeah, he is the worst father and I am the worst son, but that doesn't mean we can't be best friends, you know? And I like to think that sometimes it's easier to get angry at something than to be sad. Because of the fandom, I found closure to all the things I struggled with in life, and it's all thanks to all the people here. Like, a lot of people are hurt and broken in their own ways, but the beautiful thing is to watch people come together, help each other heal, and support them on finding their own way out in life. I guess that's what family means to me now. Like, we may not be able to choose our parents, but we could certainly choose who we call family. Okay, so this is gonna take a while to explain. Now, I'll have to preface this by sharing some details about whatever that happened in the past without mentioning names, okay? This is not a call-out, this is just documenting my past experiences. In parts, alright? For now, let's just call it in parts. So let's start by covering when this whole concept of me being a borderline workaholic started, okay? So when I was young, I dreamed of a world tour with my name on the big screen, people chanting my name. I remember like seeing local legends in the nightlife featured on TV, and it was like this groundbreaking discovery I had. Sure, I wanted to be a film director too, aside from being a tour DJ, but let's just say that it was an incredibly expensive route over here while learning that there's a whole lot of problems on its own, even after achieving that title. So by the time I realized I've spent over a decade like trying and failing on becoming a DJ, with more failing than trying, and this was my childhood dream that nearly never came to be. So where do I go next? Too many genres, you should sound like this artist, you're not marketable, you don't look good for posters, your music is not suitable, you'll never make it, you need to do this if you want gigs, your music is not hard enough for a rave, it sounds horrible, you don't have enough followers to qualify for this gig. Now, some of these things were said to my face, and these are just some, by the people I thought I could look up to, people I thought I could trust my future with, people I thought could teach me something. And as it turns out, not only a good number cannot be trusted, some were just directly responsible for my failures, and to hear some of them admit it when confronted was just sad, you know? So over the years, despite my progress and hustle in and out of the scene, be it being a DJ or producer, I observed a number of things from the commercial music side, and it's often, if not always, everything around the music, but never about the music itself. It was always more important to make sales and social media clout than having the music reach the masses, and the crazy thing is, the deciding power is often left in the hands of club owners for the DJs and record labels for the music producers. It's like the equivalent of graduating from a top university with a master's degree. You don't get that, you don't go anywhere. Like, that's what we're often told, at least for most of us. And in where I come from, if you are a music producer and don't have a track listed with any of the top record labels, or if you're a DJ and you have no following, even if you can meet and even exceed club standard performances, you'll be likely told that you're worth nothing and just another person that will give up eventually. Or worse, people will try to pull you down by finding as much dirt as they can on you and bash you behind every step of the way until they can overtake you. Then there's the whole circle jerk thing, where it's not how good you are, but who you know to get what you want and what you can trade in return. Like, everything is transactional, which I can understand why things should be done this way, because you can't run businesses on air. It needs money after all, you know. But to consistently maintain your standing in the scene, as well as to continue help businesses rake in sales, is this endless loop. And that, my friends, is just the tip of the iceberg, and the reason why I just decided to do my stuff on this independent basis in a completely different name, completely far away, like from where I used to come from. And now, to clarify, I won't say this is happening everywhere in the world, and I'm not gonna pinpoint where this is happening, but it exists. And this is partly the reason why I tell most would-be DJs or producers to just take it as a hobby. Get into it only because you love it, you know? So imagine being so mentally beaten up over the years that you lock yourself in a small room for anywhere between 8 to 12 hours, 5 to 6 days a week. You get your hands on as many types of DJ equipment available out there and quite literally do nothing else but to practice. And you do this for a solid few years, thinking it would help you get gigs if you have a decent set of skills. And then one night you head out to the clubs, only to realize that some kid got the slots only because he was friends with the DJ and he genuinely cannot mix for shit at all. It really messes with you over time, and I guess that was where my borderline workaholic lifestyle started. So every 1 or 2 years there'll be something weird happening in a bad way, and my journey was never a smooth one through all my hustles. I'll just mention some of the more major incidents. In 2014, there was a countdown party going on, and I was invited to do a closing set. That was my first time ever. I went 3 tracks in. After that, my set was actually cut off because the manager was absolutely wasted and he wanted to DJ. Walked up to the stage and everything. That killed the entire party and everyone bailed to the beach clubs next door. That was supposed to be my first large venue set. Organizer apologized and compensated, but I didn't really care much about the money as much as I needed it. But I wanted to have a moment of my own, you know? So never mind that. In 2015, I was with this group of people who were mostly into the bar DJ scene, and they claimed that they wanted to help me get into gigs. But strange enough, no matter what I did, be it playing a crowd pleaser set, a simple warm-up, or proper, like, open format set, okay? They just kept telling me that you're not ready yet. So this guy, let's call him Jay again, and I'm gonna put this one out here. Like, here's this guy who went up to everyone saying that we're close friends and cracked the same damn story about how we really met, even though I told him to stop and he ignored. I then found out one day that he was actually quietly taking a good number of the slots to himself the entire time. Now, I didn't want to say a word about it at all back then because I was afraid. Now, I don't give a fuck anymore, really. I just don't. So in 2016, I went into my first ever DJ competition and sort of, you could call it a little bit rigged because I know the champion and I also know kind of like most of the contestants as well. But so it was just like finals, right? So we sort of had a mini discussion while we were squatting at the back of the stage where like I wanted to play my style for the first time, and I told him that just do a commercial one and you will definitely win. And sure enough, he did. I got second, and the third was this guy from a very, very wealthy family. Nice dude actually, although a bit aloof in regards to the dark side of the scene. So the prize is winner gets a slot at this outdoor Countdown Festival's main stage. The rest obviously don't. We just get a bit of money and that's it. So I was called up a month after that to be the lead stage technician for the DJ equipment at the same festival. Now, when I got there, I found out that the third place dude had a slot at the foam pool side stage, you know, and it was really awkward when people saw me and started texting me asking what time my set was, and I'm just there troubleshooting the decks while the third place was just standing next to me panicking. Then after that, it was 17 hours of patrolling both stages, watching the DJs and the guest headliner just bashing my dreams to death. And I tried to end myself several times the following years. 2017 was perhaps the darkest year. I basically died inside. I had no hope to do anything at all. You know, I had a major alcoholic relapse and I got countless times of alcohol poisoning with the same thought of trying to end myself. And let's just say I damn near succeeded. I didn't do anything related to music for that period of time, the entire year, and I was just lost mostly. And somehow I found my way back into the club scene through people calling me for help because of my background in tech. In 2018, there was an anniversary event for the club I was working at as the lead tech guy. And again, I was behind the stage running the tech while that same third place dude was doing a set opener for the guest headliner. And I was just in shock, thinking to myself, why, you know? I have nothing against him though, you know? I think he's still a nice dude. And the year after, I was mostly traveling and doing odd jobs, but it felt quite liberating after I decided to let go of pretty much everything to do with music. Like, a lot of people dropped by my DMs and told me to not let go, but most just used that as a facade and, you know, some kind of a cover up for them to be able to say like, hey, if you're not using your stuff in music production and CDJs and whatnot, like, can I have like them for free? Like, shit was ugly. Like, this was also the same year that this agent I used to have stole my first overseas gig in Maldives and claimed that they approached him first when the client specifically requested for me. I have the messages, I have proof, you know? And that guy was a snake, let's just call him that. And in 2020, the first major club gig, I went ahead to ignore this snake of an agent me and a mutual had. He was technically a non-exclusive dude who took half our payments thinking that we never knew and tried to micromanage our sets by forcing us to play separate hours. At that point of time, we had a trick up our sleeves and we just told him, fuck you, we'll do what's best for the customers. The results, we successfully closed the night with a crowd count that broke the club's record and learned that we had more people packed in than the club's grand opening itself, and we risked the maximum capacity throughout the whole time of our set. And that was a vote of confidence for us. I was like, yes, we actually proved a point, and not just that, we can also look forward to more gigs. And then the pandemic happened 1 week right after that, and all talks of my first ever DJ tour just flopped, all of it. I lost everything and felt that there was no meaning to continue this hustle at the time. So I had the VR headset CV1 from my developer friend. Shout out to Ray for being the reason why I'm here. And it was always sitting in the corner. That headset was just sitting in the corner unused. And then once I pop it on, I listened to what Ray, she was just walking me through, like, okay, so here's what you should do, set up this and that. And then I discovered this massive hidden world of people. And in August 2021, that was when everything changed for me. That was when I finally understood some of the old timers saying that they would rather play to a room of dozens than crowds of thousands. Now, I was used to playing for the masses in the 3 to 4 digit range, so it's not very difficult for me now, but I never had that ability to connect with the people who's partying there until Vibe Night happened. Kazuki shoved me in the right direction and led me to Misho and everyone else. I thought I already lost my drive to do anything, and I may have accidentally went over the top when Misho kept reassuring me, just do your thing. And then one night I was drunk till my face was all kinds of fucked up, and I applied for Ferality Legends with this set demo I had a while ago. One thing I did not mention about this demo, however, was the fact that this was the same set I tried playing in a couple of club venues and was told that there's too many genres, too many mashups, you gotta think for the next DJs, and had to end up playing standard radio bullshit. I mean, sure, it's my job to make that work too, but what I'm trying to say is that you can never encourage creativity in the commercial scene, at least over here. So over the years, I had people I thought were close friends mocking me behind my back every step of the way, thinking I'll never find out or have concrete evidence against them, which I never bothered using anyway. The vicious cycle begins from the moment when I'm given the opportunity to shut these naysayers down completely. Then they will ramp up on their efforts to stop me in my tracks. Then I have to practically restart the whole cycle of working my way up again if they succeed with their attempt. This is the reality for quite a number of DJs. The politics could be quite ridiculous, to say the least. And one of the shittiest things that nobody talked about was the fact that it's regarded as a common issue where everyone talks about it, but no one dares to do anything about it. Like, be it in fear of losing their own gigs or connections with other people. So one of the uglier facts over here is that DJs are often hired either through people they knew or by their follower count. Skills are often thrown out the window most of the time and only brought back in when the club owners realize, oh shit, the customers are leaving, we gotta get our residents to take over now. And it was then when I realized and learned the hard truth behind why club owners had to do that. It's business after all, and it's all about dollars and cents. In the end, people still need to get paid, right? So I went home one night thinking about all of this and concluded that with money comes expectations of the DJs to do well. And for the DJs, that means pressure to entertain audiences in a way that encouraged customers to spend more money, right? I decided to remove like the whole root of the problem and changed my perspective that money is a bonus as long as I get to do what I want in order to deliver what is needed of me. This was around the time I started changing my strategies in pitching myself to agents and events, and let's just say my success rate was much higher when I started to mentally detach myself from my backyard. So whatever I've been doing over here for the past year, granted with all the people's love and support in the fandom, were the very things I set out to do, but never got to. And it's even crazier to learn about the power of being genuine before moving here. So I tried one crazy idea with the boys in my performance group of us just being our genuine selves, like how we're really like off stage. And suddenly by the following week, a whole bunch of people started to copy us, doing the exact same things as we did, except you could see that they're putting in so much effort trying to recreate that. and it was honestly, and I quote my boys, fucking cringe to watch. Now, they're technically our juniors, and I say this with concern, and I hope that they find their way to be their true selves on stage instead of trying so hard to be cool like everyone else. Although my boys had rather strong opinions against their actions, and I know they tried copying only because it raked in serious numbers for us. Like, we were technically one of the most viewed local DJ live streams on New Year's Eve. I was sick of all the politics, the backstabbing, pretense, toxic positivity going on, all that shit, and I just went ahead to wipe out most, if not all, of my social media. Nothing truly mattered in the end. The numbers don't really matter to me. And it only proves the fact that people will just move on to the next person if you suddenly stop entertaining them. We're all just service providers for entertainment, in a crude way to put it. You can never be yourself, and you always have to put on a mask just for PR reasons. It's almost stupid. In here, I can actually be myself, be free to do whatever I wanted. Like, money's a big plus, of course, but not a must when everyone involved in running the shows are mostly volunteers as well. You know, it's all about the moment we share that counts the most, and if virality as well as other events didn't happen for me, I honestly don't think I would be here, quite literally, you know. And on that, I still have to thank a few people in particular who told me this many years ago before our lives started to get a little bit more hectic because growing up, right? So, Nemos, Rabbit, if you're watching this, once upon a time, both of you told me that my music was meant for stages far bigger than our country can ever hold, and our hometown was never really a place for me. You know, somewhere along the lines like that, I still remember. And I didn't know how to believe in that all the years until all of this started to happen, and now I kind of understand. I finally found acceptance in the purpose I've always talked about but never really had the courage to do, and that is to support non-profit organizations and helping people to forget the world and find a moment of joy in my own ways, right? And now to Valent, Elefox, Kaiju, Fen, Rapson, Chris Devious, and pretty much the entire Feralities staff teams, thank you all for making this idiot's dream come to life. I would have never imagined I'll be able to have a moment like this, really. I'm forever grateful for all of you and all the amazing things that y'all did. Misho, Kazuki, no, I don't enjoy the Fosse. But anyway, thank you too for being the reason how I found a home here. You know, helping me discover a lot of things in my personal life I never really sat down to think about before. This journey together so far helped me grow so much in such a short span of time, and I hope I could do the same for you both and for many others out there. I can't save everyone, you know, but I could try and help as many as I can. So now I'm back to that work style for good reasons this time. I'm still trying to chase my dreams of being a tour DJ, be it touring at FurCons or non-furry venue outlets. I'm cool with that, you know, and if that doesn't work out, I'll just simply do a couple of VR shows just for fun. Because, I mean, ultimately, I guess I just wanted to have a bit of fun and see the world while my health still allows me to. And honestly, it's getting tougher by the years, if I'll be perfectly honest, given the fact that there's all kinds of madness going on around the world. There's inflations, war, hate crimes, and so on. And I'm not well off. I'm forever broke because of the responsibilities I have to my household, myself, and all my work combined didn't pay out anymore, you know, as good as it was pre-COVID times, right? But I could at least try to make it happen somehow. There's nothing to lose and everything to gain at this point. And even if it didn't happen, I'm glad to say at least I've given it all I have. And I'll continue to do my best for the people who genuinely believed in me and in this fandom. And I'll always perform like it's my last. Now, whenever I'm in any social settings and people talk about the things they did before they were young, I actually had a lot of troubles trying to relate on a personal level. See, not because I don't care, but I never got to experience it myself before. Now, I can't say I don't have a childhood, but I can't say I have one either. It's a rather weird spot to be in. So, to put things into perspective, Imagine being born and only learn many years later that your legal name has a typo, and that one letter mistake became one of the hidden reasons of how literally everyone would mistake your ethnicity for another with all the prejudice and hate. Imagine learning about how you have a half-brother you never knew about until you were like, what, 9? Imagine literally every single day in your life something bad happens. Imagine sitting in a class one day and you realize that you don't really have a family or friends to count on that's there for you in many times when you needed people like that the most. Imagine waking up one day and you sound different. There's no Control-Z on this shit, right? So let's start with that one. This is how I really sound like since young. And no, this is not from watching TV. Shit, I didn't even have electricity at home to afford watching TV. I had a major head trauma incident when I was 7. This was about during my paternal grandfather's funeral, and I was at my uncle's house upstairs taking a shower break, right? Where my mom just walked into the bathroom, grabbed my head, and slammed it right into the bathroom wall hard enough that the tiles broke. Just because I was a little bit too active. Nah, I'm kidding, I was a little piece of shit back then. So I woke up in the hospital, got discharged, and I sound like this ever since. And it was only until in recent years, with the help of many friends I made who happened to be in the medical field, like physicians, specialists, researchers, nurses, so on, and learned that I may have what they call foreign accent syndrome. It's this phenomena that's sorta classified as extremely rare with not many documented cases worldwide. Not a good thing when you're about, what, 9 or 10 years old. You're supposed to be this full-blown Asian with zero Western influences, and every day you have at least 1 or 2 people who would walk up and say, "You are supposed to sound like this, stop trying to fake accent." And yes, that's what the local accents sound like. And I found myself in situations where I have to learn the local accent again just to fit in with people, even if we don't ever talk after the first meeting. It's stupid. Most people here are born with pure black hair, but mine was this deep shade of brown and black in between. And add that with a lot of white hair scattered across the head. Doctors couldn't figure out why, you know, and the schools I was in just forced me to dye my hair black just so I could fit in. Yes, at the age of about 10 or 11. So because of how I look, right, and what I sounded like, I was mostly alone. Sure, I may have had a handful of people that came and went, but nobody really stayed in the end. Anyway, imagine I was struggling with not knowing that people avoided me because I sounded different to them, even family. When my family were still in contact with their siblings, I'll usually get thrown in together with the other kids from the maternal side, and my mother's side is probably the only I'll ever visit often enough to say I'm kinda close to them. I never managed to fit in at all with the cousins. Everyone was busy flexing what their parents got for them, what academic grades they got, latest gadgets as seen on TV, fancy ass clothes, top schools and shit, and I was this black sheep of the family everybody looked down on, wearing my hand-me-downs, sitting in a corner, hogging the TV remote alone. Now, since my dad was an alcoholic, abusive, odd-job worker who spent all his money on mistresses and alcohol, while my mom was mostly busy outside, she was a hairdresser, with her friends, at the salon, or anything, really, just to get away from home. I only had my grandmother who kept me by her side most of the time. Specifically the maternal one, or my mom's mom. The paternal one can sincerely go fuck themselves. She was my only friend and family who gave a shit enough to protect me, teaching me the power of kindness and love. On the other hand, just an example of how bad the dad's side is. So this was one year I showed up for the first time, I learned. This was with my dad bringing me over to see his siblings for the first time, and if I remember correctly, it was one of the wealthier half-siblings he had. Well, cue the same shit of being thrown with the other kids, everyone flexing, and then some shit. Everybody stayed away from me because they were going, "You're weird." So fast forward a little bit later into the later part of the evening, with the eldest cousin getting everyone over to the study room, he had this desktop computer his dad just bought. I was around 8 at the time when this thing happened, and I remembered asking if I was able to play it, right? While the rest of them was just watching him in envy. I mean, damn, an IBM PC at that time? That shit cost thousands back then. Funny how I can remember the PC specs clearly even now. So anyway, everyone turned their attention to me as soon as I said that. He just asked me loudly, if you know what this is called, I'll let you play. And being the 8-year-old dumb shit I was, I panicked with all the eyes set on me just like that, and I just blurted out, I don't know. And he just shouted, it's called a PC, stupid, and everybody laughed. I will never forget that day, because that motherfucker became the reason why I went deep into IT. Yes, I will forever be salty about this, let me have this one. Wow. But yeah, so side note, that was actually the only real reason, although petty as fuck reason, why my first field was IT, and I managed to pave a way the hard way towards commercial and later enterprise IT for over the next 20 years of my life, among other things I was doing at the time. At first, I was that pissed enough, but later on developed actual genuine interest to the whole topic. Like every single year, I shoved myself straight into learning something on my own aside from other things. I blew up my first desktop, networking, hardware, software, security, how to repair them, everything in between. Now, since I wasn't doing so well in classes because of everything that's been happening in school and home, all I had for comfort that I could find was, aside from running away from bad influences, was to just hide in the library or whatever place that offered what I wanted to learn about. That's just the larger fragments of whatever childhood, I guess. Anyway, some of you may notice that every now and then, and most unfortunately for me, I learned that the syndrome is untreatable even with speech therapy or training, and because of that quirk, along with other speeches, issues like random slurrings and sudden pauses, I don't know how to quite describe it. I'm just actually thinking like, what's the right word to say it, right? Anyway, so I grew up mostly being shifted around schools because I got into trouble often with the other kids for trying to stand up for myself while I was getting picked on, while my mom kept picking fights with other parents and problems in my house. So I never really had the chance to keep in touch with anyone in my youth. And wherever I went, I was always being picked on by bullies for being the odd one out kid who didn't have anywhere to fit in. We're talking about shit, I can't even fit in with the nerds, cool kids, and the emo kids, and other weird kids, just anyone in general, right? And I only had 2 friends back in secondary school, which would be the rough equivalent of rough around grade 12? Yeah. And much later learned that the only 2 friends I thought I really had only included me out of pity for the plight I was in and not because they cared, and that really shattered my confidence in having any friends at all. I just became this recluse. Sure, I wasn't exactly a good person either, with all the trouble I was getting into in the past, but I didn't have anyone to tell me what I'm doing if it was right or wrong. As if I was just getting thrown into the world blind and everyone expected me to conform and behave in a certain way that's acceptable in societal standards, as if I should have them already. That was one of the main driving factors to why I decided to drop out of school. I was done with the prejudice, I was done with, all the judgy eyes and all the things that people tell me. Since, well, also, this is a little bit embarrassing, but I was actually the only one out of 4 or 5 people to actually fail my GCE N-levels. But in my defense about dropping out, it was a difficult period. I mean, imagine your math teacher, for example, right? Despite being fully aware of the situation you had to deal with at home and school, she proceeded to tell you, and I quote her on this, "If you don't study hard in my class, you will never make it anywhere in life." Well, let's just say that since then, I ventured into several industries, 5 specifically, and just, well, achieve things, you know, and I later found out that she was still teaching in the same school, saying the same damn thing to kids. That's pretty messed up, actually. But anyway. Then I tried to get into this technical college of sorts for the sake of trying to get better paying employments, which I dropped out of in 8 months, partly due to the whole turbulent financial state I was in. The shit that they taught being heavily irrelevant to the course at some points, didn't have anyone supporting my dream of getting decent work in the IT field. And of course, even more bullies. Imagine having that kind of shit luck where you get picked on in class by that one guy all day every day. He turns like some people against you here and there, you know, and you drop out of school, you go to the military, you go in there, and 1 year after in there, you see the same motherfucker in that same training batch who did the same thing of turning people against you. But for that one, let's just say I had the last laugh. I'm just gonna leave it as that. That was around the time I realized I had to really stand up on my own, and I guess that's around the time right after leaving the military that I developed this really bad temper at work that nobody could handle. So I just developed this struggle for OCD for details, and realized I'm consistently pulling off what's seemingly impossible all the time, while expecting people to meet or exceed the standards I set. And sure, it paid off countless times, but it also burned a lot of people out. Even though they said they completely understand. Be it my staff, be it my coworkers, they constantly tried to assure me that I'm doing the right thing for everyone. I wasn't really sure if I was the problem. So that was the real reason why I stopped running my businesses altogether. The money wasn't really that good, to be honest. It was a lot of hard work and the payoff wasn't so great, but I knew that people counted on that project, the few that were running at the point of time, to survive, and I can't disappoint them too. And it was only until 1 year after having a massive fight with my significant other that I realized I wasn't actually an angry person, but it was just that constant fear of failing at something and all the what ifs that could happen after that. Then I learned that it was far easier to be mad than to be sad. And the following years was just me learning to keep my anger only for matters that are worth getting pissed off about. No, that doesn't make me a dumb top, please, just... So, come to think of it, the whole process of my time growing up was just straight up struggling to find pockets of time between all kinds of odd jobs, from cleaning toilets to selling newspapers, washing dishes, you know, whatever jobs that people with no academic qualifications like myself could get, right? And trying to have whatever fun I could afford, just so I could feel like I had a normal life, even if it's for just that moment. You know, imagine visiting a water theme park for the first time at the age of 26. I felt out of place as fuck, being surrounded by people mostly 10 years younger than myself at least. Never been to Disney World or whatever big amusement theme parks out there, never really been to a petting zoo, never really got to travel and see the world much, other than the ones for work. Unless we count the times where my dad would drag me to travel with his families he remarried to several times, maybe once every few years, then watch him get into fights with all the different now current ex-wives over my existence. Well, he did lie to them that he was single, to be fair. And the duration for all that starts from going overseas to returning home all the way. I just grew up watching all the people around me that came and went, having all the bells and whistles I wished I had, but I think the most I wished for would be the moments of doing things together with people and spending quality time with family. Now, at the time I was about 12 or so dad's out drinking again, mom's not doing so well at the hospital again. So I had to reimagine that I got a computer as a gift from my parents, but in reality, that first computer of mine was actually from dumpster diving for parts in industrial parks and offices near my house, and whatever rubbish bins along the way. And since I didn't have access to the interwebs back then, and dial-up was wildly unstable since the landlines back then were pretty much in bad shape, My only source of entertainment and learning was quite literally borrowing CDs and whatever training videotapes from libraries, or whatever demos I could find in magazines that people threw away. You know, it was a constant battle against time and money for the sake of affording these little fragments of feeling normal, you know? And so down the road, especially in recent years, I didn't realize that I was already in the process of revenge buying all the shit I couldn't afford back then. Shit like every single game console, mini disc, Discman, Walkman, all of the Apple products, all of the Samsung and whatever cutting edge tech shit, a shit ton of phones. I think I have like over 20 of them somewhere in my room. Desktops, servers, laptops, whatever the fuck really. And over the years I just sort of went nuts about the state of my workspace, right? And I expanded the fuck out of that. I would say I may have went overboard by accident, and my workspace, wow, now it has over 11 monitors across a bunch of PCs and laptops. But to be fair, that's for work, okay? So I ended up not using most of the stuff I bought for long, and would end up just either sell or give it away to those who can't afford it, but I know they deserve all the good things in the world that this world could offer, right? I mean, fuck, I know how that feels like. I thought owning the things I dreamed of as a kid would now have made me feel a little happier in some way, but no, all that shit didn't work, and now it's all just packed away in storage and never really used much, you know? So around that time when I was still struggling between that false sense of happiness from materialistic gains and quite literally trying to live, I was working in this bar as a part-time DJ on minimum wage. It's seeing the bar filled with all walks of life that made me realize I couldn't sit still in the end. I just wanted to do more, see more, experience all the things out there, you know? And thanks to friends in the entertainment scene, film production, and my sponsors that I've had the luxury to meet over the years, they helped me find ways to turn one of the things I tried running away from for half my life into this advantage that nobody else actually had. I realized I'm now doing voiceovers for commercials, guide videos, and stuff because of what I sound like. It's weird, really. Never even crossed my mind. Like, yeah, okay, maybe even the porn ones, well, it was pretty good money, okay, I'm gonna be honest. But what I'm trying to say is that I never thought that it would have been possible for someone like me to even get to that level. It's quite insane. So I came to a conclusion that nothing I do now will make up for what I never had in the past. Sure, I could try it now anyway, but it probably won't feel the same anymore. At one point, I nearly became the bully that picked on other bullies, but thankfully I didn't. Let's just leave that one behind for now. And looking back through all the years of growing up mostly on my own, out of all the things I wished I had, would be the joy of sharing a moment with someone, you know, like, you know, when you have a sleepover with friends and everyone would just be sitting around the TV playing co-op video game titles, chill out with a bunch of pizza and drinks, or just watching shows together, talking about life, thinking about what's next for us, you know, stuff like that, you know, something like that. Now, I did have a handful of those moments and it felt really nice. Those are moments I always held on to. But nowadays, it's hard to make that happen anymore when everyone's all grown up and have their lives and work to attend to. I'd always tell my juniors and students to cherish their youth and the people around them along the way. You know, just enjoy the good, bad, and even ugly moments. Gotta have the bad times to know what's good too, you know? And more often than before in recent years, I found myself visiting this one place that I moved away from since I was about 9 or so. It was my old apartment that my family moved out of, out of many years ago, and no matter how drunk or upset I was, no matter rain or shine, whenever I was at a real low in life, like bad shit went down, I somehow always end up there. That's actually the only place I had left to sort of tell myself that once upon a time I had this brief moment of a childhood at least, and everything fucked up in my life had to happen so I could be here today. It's not about letting go or moving on. I guess it was just trying to find the comfort of something, you know, from something that no one was really able to give me in the end. not my significant other, not whatever that's left of my parents. Those were the times where, despite the bullies, domestic violence, poverty, prejudice, and the impractical expectations from relatives, at least there were a good handful of moments that were genuinely fun, you know. And sure, I mean, there were countless times I just wished I was adopted by a rich and good-hearted friend just to know how it's like to have a family and finer things in life. Or maybe a sugar daddy or mommy. Holy shit, I'm really drunk. But I guess, anyway, I guess in the end, I just wanted to feel normal for once, you know? What it's like to be loved. Even now, as I'm documenting this, incredibly drunk, I'm still struggling to understand what love should be like. Is it about great sex? Is it coexisting for the rest of our lives while having lukewarm feelings for each other? I really don't have an answer to that. You know, all I could do now is just to admire those who are madly in love with each other, be it for a few months or over 50 years. I never quite understood how to return the feelings. It's supposed to be a two-way thing, but, you know, I just never knew how. At the end of all the years of skipping schools, I ironically ended up teaching in quite a few schools in DJing, music production, on Ableton, while, you know, taking classes for my professional certifications and working full-time just to afford a fraction of the cost of the things I wanted to do. It's one of the weirdest turns I definitely had in my life, in a good way. You know, I ended up spending whatever bits of free time I have to talk to people who genuinely need advice and help them find their way, because, you know, I never really had anyone do that for me aside from my grandmother's occasional chats. Everyone's just tossing random opinions that worked for them right into my face and pray that it works for me, not because they could be happy for me, but to fuel themselves. And you can see that, you know, to fuel themselves with, I changed lives, congratulate me, this guy would be nothing without me. I'm serious. And with all the shit that I grew up in, I guess the most beautiful thing, although kind of fucked up to put it this way, is that I can really appreciate all the good things in life now, big or small. And now I'm at the age where I just want to see the world while I still can, since my body is sort of like kinda pretty much falling apart faster than before. I'm just gonna leave that as it is for now. And now I'm just trying to do whatever that I always dreamed of with whatever bits of money I could raise on my own, right? I mean, since my childhood dream of becoming a DJ touring the world with people may never happen in this lifetime, as roughly explained earlier, now I'm just gonna seize whatever time I have left to do the rest of what I had in the new bucket list. Like, get my entire body decked out in custom drawn tattoos that could help me tell stories in my life, travel the world and live in different places for a while, you know, and meet new people and experience things that I never tried before. I'll never know which ones I could really finish, which ones I could really start, and we'll never know how long I still have. Could be a year, could be 6 months, 10 years from now, but now, at this very moment I'm telling you this, I learned to cherish life and to help those in need. So this part is a little bit out of the blue, and it may come off as pretty unsettling for some, even for me actually. But I'd rather leave it here than to avoid what's probably gonna hit all of us, well, at least for myself eventually, right? I mean, what would you do if one day you wake up, you look in the mirror in the bathroom, and suddenly you have this question just pop up in your head, and you realize that your life is now ending against your will? What will you do? And that was the heaviest wake-up call I was never really been able to tell anyone properly, like my significant other, for example. I mean, yeah, it's pretty fucking serious, but to really sum this part up, she and I have been on this really, I would call it, beautiful but fractured relationship while growing up together, where the first couple of years would be a bits of dating, bits of spending time together, and then it's just falling straight into coexisting for the next 9 years, you know. And imagine it's only through massive fights that you learn more about yourself and the other person, and some of the things you learn just turn out to be not what you expect of this person, and you and the other person just slowly drift away from each other into your own things. So I tell my friends about this. Some wanted to stay logical and went with the whole, you know, innocent until proven guilty approach. Some just brushed it off and said I was being paranoid, but they're not the ones waking up to this weird feeling right where the liver is for years, where there's this pressure feeling building up. It doesn't have any sharp pain. I still have, you know, pretty normal life experience. What the fuck is that? Okay, I'm drunk. Anyway, and I keep having to get referred to by other people. I'm honestly poor as fuck even now from dealing with responsibilities. I don't expect people to understand the unspeakable agony of growing up alone, just trying to fight for bits and pieces of happiness, and just when you're about to start a new life, all of a sudden you just get completely shut down one day by this unconfirmed diagnosis, and now all the things you wanted to fight for yourself are pretty much impossible to get now. And you can only pray that there is a next lifetime to even try again. That's kind of why it always seemed like I had the drive in anything I do to keep breaking past my limits, to keep trying new things, experiment with different ways, and just keep pushing, right? And while I'm doing that as kind of like a personal challenge, it's also partly out of this thing I never told anyone before, that it's actually out of worry that I may never get to do this again, just as my life was starting. You know, if it was really confirmed that it's really terminal, I want to be able to at least leave something behind that says, once upon a time, I was here, you know? I may never be able to leave a legacy. I'm no superstar. I'm no one. You know, I'm just another nobody on the internet. But I'm sure as hell that I could try. Fuck, I mean, I've got nothing much to lose in the end. It's not like I started out with anything in the first place anyway. And no, this is not a call for pity. If you're waiting for a sign, this could be it, you know? This is a message to remind you that as long as you're breathing, you fight for your dreams. You fight for your goals that you set but never got around to do it. No matter how fucking dark the world is, no matter how bleak our futures could be, live for yourself from time to time. I know it's hard to achieve for many people out there, be it for money reasons, family, or whatever really, but don't reach an age where you're old and end up regretting you didn't do this and that at a younger age, when you can actually do it now. You know, shit's gonna fuck up if it's meant to be anyway, but as long as you try your best, that's also a way to at least try and reduce the likelihood of shit fucking up, right? And even if you did fail, at least it's a story worth telling. Don't wait till you're given a wake-up call that says you could be running out of time to do this. Try again in your next life. And I guess where I learned this from was, you know, growing up attending more funerals than weddings. Really, it's pretty ugly actually. Now, I don't want to go into religion or anything, but I just want to say that none of us really truly know if there's a next life, and all we have is now, this moment. Now, I don't know what my next steps are really. Like, I'm just living a day at a time, scraping for extra cash to just finish my bucket list, then yeet myself off a cliff, because, you know, funerals are pretty expensive actually. And, you know, gut feeling tells me that I won't be able to achieve everything. You know, I gave up on the fursuit for many years after trying. I just gave up, you know. So I just went on to focusing on the last three things. The full body tattoos, maybe doing a DJ tour, just one, you know. And seeing the world. But hey, I sure as hell could try, right? So should you. Life is really too short. And everything begins from the way of how you look at the world. So yeah, that's just some of the things in my rather turbulent days of growing up. I can't exactly call it a childhood, but it'll have to do in this lifetime. This is just a part of my story. If you want to hear more and fall asleep to something monotonous and like grim, just ask, you know. I just reached the age where life gets a little bit more exciting, a little bit more, you know, insightful. And I guess it's this moment that I realize I really don't give a fuck about anything anymore. But hey, if you make it here at the end of this video, thank you. You know, unfortunately, there will be no pictures of my ass for now. I have an unflattering one, even though this appearance is modeled to roughly reflect what the shape of my body looks like in real life. So, you know. Anyway, my name is Spencer Loprov Liao. Once upon a time, I was here. And this is my milestone story.